What a mess. So the Democrats had their first debate last night, and it was a mess. It was pretty discombobulated. It was just scattered, and it wasn't thorough. And I just hate this structure. I hate the structure of having 10 candidates mashed into 2 hours where they can't even open up policy dialogue. You have candidates saying they're for certain things, and getting off the hook with talking about it, talking about the policy substance, and that. No, I'm not having that, because I know there's too many people out there who are disingenuous, who are fake, who say they support something without explaining why and how and the nuts and bolts of the policies they're claiming to support. It's too easy, and it bothers me. So a politician is generally disingenuous, but even more so in these horrible structures that they have rigged up for this debate. And don't give me that crap like, oh well, Dave, there's 20 or so candidates. They have to slice it up some way. Listen, our political cycles are 365, 24 hours a day, every year. Don't tell me we can't come up with a more detailed structure where we can break down policy arguments and policy talk, okay? Because there's too many of these people getting away with stuff they should be getting away with. And we can set this up. They could have set this up way better. They could have set it up 5 candidates. If there's 20, 5 candidates over 4 nights where they can break up the dialogue and get into details about policy talk and policy substance. But no, they have these very large debates with 10 people. There's people talking all over each other. They can't even get a sentence out without being walked on. It was ridiculous. It was a mess. Okay. Anyways, okay, I'm ranting. I actually have some information for you. I'm only going to focus on Elizabeth Warren and Tulsi Gabbard because those are the 2 I want to focus on. I'll have some other notes about some other candidates, but for the most part, Warren and Gabbard are in my top 6, so I want to focus on them the most. So Warren came off as very compelling in her answers. She had very strong energy, very strong presence about her. It just resonated with me. She was well prepared, and she finally said she was on board with Bernie's Medicare for All when asked about it. That's a huge relief for those of us who are progressives, who are just like, well, is she for Bernie's gold standard Medicare for All, or isn't she? Well, she said she was on board with Bernie Sanders and his Medicare for All. That was one of the highlights for me, and for a lot of progressives who just been waiting for her to say that. So that's pretty cool. Elizabeth Warren also spoke about how we need the courage to take on the establishment. So she really brought out the populist rhetoric, an us versus them type framing, where we have to take on the establishment, the corruption and corporations. So I greatly appreciated that from Elizabeth Warren. She talked at length about industrial policy, green technology, green energy. I thought that was great to hear. She said, quote, we need to make Roe versus Wade federal law. Scoring points there with women and Americans in general. What else do I have? She was very compassionate about the nation's crisis. She called it a health crisis with guns. I like the framing of that. She gave this compassionate response when asked about gun control, and how she framed it as a national health crisis with gun violence. I thought that was very compelling, and I like that framing. So I would say Elizabeth Warren, is in my top 3 for winning the debates. She definitely came out strong. She had strong presence. She talked about the correct issues. She had a lot of the correct answers. She was definitely in my top 3 from last night. Okay, so I'm going to move on to Tulsi Gabbard here. So Tulsi dodged her first question, and I wrote down a note here. What my thoughts were last night. I wrote, this registered as cringe to me. Like, I was just cringing when I was like, answer the question. Because, and like, here's the thing. I know it was like a strategy. Like, I could tell, like, whatever was going through her head, it was like, okay, whatever they ask me, just ignore it. I just got to set my agenda. I got to plant a flag where I need to plant a flag, and who cares? Okay, so I understand her strategy going into the first question. But at the same time, there were so many people up on stage whom I do not respect who did the same thing, like Beto O'Rourke or Cory Booker. Anytime you threw a question at them, they just dodged it because it was in their best interest to dodge questions. So when I see someone like Tulsi Gabbard, someone who I respect, dodging questions, that's just going to get thrown into with the other people on stage who I don't like, and it's going to reflect poorly on her because her opponents are all doing that. So I don't like when people dodge questions in general. And no, who would like that? But I'm just saying, for someone I respect, like Tulsi Gabbard, to be dodging questions, it's not a good look. So it wasn't a good look for her in that moment. But anyway, another problem I had with Tulsi was when Lester Holt asked who here on stage would trade their current employee insurance for single-payer healthcare insurance. Raise your hand. And out of 10 people, only 2 people did. It was Bill de Blasio and it was Elizabeth Warren. And this disappointed me with Tulsi Gabbard. This was not what I was expecting, because for the longest time, she's been saying Medicare for all, she supports Medicare for all. She even had a good response to the Medicare for all question that everybody got a chance to answer. But yet, in that moment, she did not raise her hand. So what am I supposed to think about that? Did I miss something? I mean, Tulsi's in my top 3. Okay? And she's not above criticism. Okay? She should have raised her hand there. Am I wrong? Leave me a comment down below. Am I wrong? Should Tulsi Gabbard, someone who has been supporting Medicare for all for the longest time, should she have raised her hand in that moment? I think she should have. That disappointed me. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, she nailed the Medicare for all rhetoric, though, when she was asked about it. Okay? She went on how she supports it and everything like that. But in that moment, she didn't raise her hand. So, once again, that doesn't add up. Okay? 1 + 1 is not 3. Okay? Okay, the Iran deal came up. She nailed this. She said we should rejoin the Iran deal from 2015. Fully support that. That's a pretty easy one. She said, quote, Trump needs to swallow his pride and put the American people first. Once again, 100%, totally agree with her on that. Foreign policy is her jam. That's her thing. She's solid on foreign policy. Okay, so Chuck Todd called Tulsi out on her homophobic past, and Tulsi came clean about it. She just said, she talked about her socially conservative upbringing, and how her record in Congress is 100% pro-LGBTQ, and she came clean about it. And if we're a forgiving people and we're an understanding people, you know, people make mistakes, and people learn things that are incorrect. And Tulsi learned things that were wrong. She has owned up to it, and she has changed completely, okay, from that person who she was in her past. Like a lot of us do on certain things. Like, we just become different people, we become wiser people, we start making the correct decisions. So I see this as very genuine with Tulsi Gabbard. And I hope those in the LGBTQ community will reason honestly here and say, okay, this woman is atoning. She's atoning for what she's done. She has changed her ways, and she is now on our side. And that would be the correct assessment, in my opinion. Okay, so those are the main 2 I wanted to get to. Any other notes I got a ton of notes, but I just wanted to get about Tulsi and Elizabeth Warren. one of the showstoppers was actually Julian Castro. Julian Castro nailed immigration topics. He nailed women's rights topics and issues. So those are just strong issues that he has that he shined immensely for. Okay, so Julian Castro, I don't know, you want to say dark horse? I don't know, but he was the one I didn't expect would do good. Okay, and he did great. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, the top 3 Googled people was Tulsi Gabbard, number 1. That's awesome. Number 2, Cory Booker. And number 3, Elizabeth Warren. Those were the top 3 Googled people during the debates. So that's some additional information there. But anyways, let me know your thoughts about last night's debates. And like, share, and subscribe, and click the bell.